Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of College and Career Pathways. We're free Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We provide you with information on various colleges and universities, financial aid resources, skilled trade professions, technical schools, career exploration, and career readiness skills, all designed to help you make the best career decisions possible. I'm Tony Cureton, your host, and we are continuing in our financial literacy series with Michigan Schools and Government Credit Union. And today we're going to be talking about understanding credit scores. Welcome back, Colleen. It is so good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very glad to be back. Usually when I start these workshops, I have a nice, cute little video. The one that specifically goes with credit scores isn't my favorite. So I found some better ones that are very, very similar. And then I'll show you a different one at the end. It's going to be bonus videos today.
Okay, good deal.
So, I need to be able to screen share. You took that part off.
There you go.
Okay. Cool. Okay. All right. Can you see the where it shows the video?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So these are three shorter ones. There's three shorter ones in a row. What is the score? How do I get the score? And why do I have a score? So we're going to go through these. Then.
What's the score?
What's a credit score? Let me tell you.
No, I mean the...
All right, a credit score is a three-digit number between 300 and 850 that's calculated by credit bureaus. The higher your score, the better you look to potential lenders. Basically, a credit score rates your credit worthiness. It's all based on the info in your credit report. Woo!
Wait, what happened? I missed it.
I got approved for a loan because of my great credit score. Yeah! Whee! Yeah! Yes! What's that? Game stats? Fantasy league picks? Inspirational player backstories?
Nope, it's my credit score. Honestly, I'm not quite sure why I have one.
Your credit score helps predict the likelihood of you making on-time payments. Your credit report contains info on your use of credit over time, and that info gets fed through a scoring model that calculates your credit score. This standardized system helps lenders and landlords assess risk more easily. If you keep your score up, it can give you more options and save you a ton of money.
Cool! Time to run up the score and reach the top of my game.
Yes! Go, go, go! Come! Score!
Hey, who's winning?
I mean, my credit score. It's awesome. How's yours?
It's complicated.
Sure is. Let's break it down. Your credit score is calculated based on your history of on-time payments, how much of your credit capacity you use, how long you've had a credit history, how many new credit accounts you open, and the variety of different types of credit that you use. Yeah.
Nice rundown. So do you play on the team or?
Woo!
Okay. All right. So that was fast. They explained that very quickly. So we're certainly going to go through that a little in more detail. So what is a credit score? It's a number used by financial institutions to determine your risk level, to make a judgment call about you. And when I'm teaching credit score to high school, I always compare it to a report card. Your credit report is kind of your adult report card, and your credit score is like your adult GPA. So in the same way that you have to put in the effort to raise your report card, to raise your GPA, you need to put in the effort for a credit score. In the same way that you are being judged by colleges, by scholarship, committees based on a piece of paper, based on some facts about you versus, a conversation with you. So it may seem complicated, but we're going to approach it just like it's your adult report card. So the FICO score is the most widely used model, kind of way of creating a credit score. So if you hear someone say my FICO score or what's your FICO score, they're saying credit score. It's like if you say debit account and checking account, they're talking about the same type of account. Your FICO score is your credit score. So there are 3 credit bureaus. Now, a bureau is not necessarily, it's not a company, it's not a store, it's not someone you pay bills to, it's not someone you mail things out to. They collect information. So it's like having, your freshman year high school report card may do things one way, and then when you transfer to a new school sophomore year, they may calculate the report card slightly different. And let's say you go to a third high school, your junior and senior year, well, they may calculate your GPA slightly different at that school too. But each school is just a collector of what the teachers provide them, and then they make a report that says that. So there are 3 collectors, bureaus: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Your score should be around an average of them. You are not going to find exactly the same number in each one. This is a bit wide. I mean, 700 to 765 seems a bit of a wide margin. I'd say maybe, 720, 740, 765. That might be, maybe something. They're going to be similar to each other. They shouldn't be really far off. That would be kind of a red flag. What does the score mean? So, we have our report card. Why do we have a GPA? The score means this is what I'm potentially capable of. This is the amount of effort I'm potentially going to put into my studies in college, or that I'm going to, how hard I'm going to work. Oh, I'm trying to look at the chat here. I can't see what it. Oh, does your credit score stay the same if you move to another state? Great question. Yes, it stays with you because it is tied to you and your social security number. So not your employer or your address. I mean, those things are included, but it's tied to your social security number. So you may have the same name as your father and your grandfather, but you each have your own separate, credit history associated with that social security number. So what does the score mean? What is the score telling someone? It's saying, well, your GPA, instead of a 3.5, 4.0, is a number between 300 and 850. But again, I'm going to simplify it for you. Just like school, just like getting, 0 to 100 on an assignment, 100 is the best, right? And you start to fail at like 60%, 60%, 55, that's when you start to fail. And below that is considered failing. You're not that much prouder of yourself for getting a 55% on a test than you are a 35%. You failed both ways. But I'm sorry. So you consider pretty much anything below 60 a poor grade. The same thing with credit scores. Anything below 600, think of like 60, 600. Anything below that is failing or poor, right? It can happen. You can get there. There's ways to get out of it. But ideally, what you're shooting for is you want to make sure you're just at least above 600, right? That's kind of your minimum. Being below that or having a credit score lower than that, which could be temporary, again, like your report card, you may have a bad semester or even a bad year, That doesn't mean for the rest of your high school career, you're going to have a low GPA. You'd have to work that much harder to, make up for it, or do extra credit to make up for it. But it doesn't mean, doom. It means right now you represent a very risky situation who's not likely to pay me back, and it's going to be more trouble for me trying to get my money back. So I'm just not going to loan to you at all. Or I'm going to make it extremely expensive. Like we're going to look at next time, predatory lending is, what happens when nobody else will give you a loan except for the loan shark. So a low score here can really keep you from getting a car, keep you from getting a house, keep you from getting an apartment. I mean, keep you from getting a job. It really limits you. So it's not just, well, I have a low GPA, I'm not really trying to go to college anyway. Well, in this case, it does matter, whether you go to college, no matter what kind of job you have, no matter what state you want to live in, it does have an impact on your life. So again, between 580 and 740, I'd say, again, over 600, let's just say 600, early 700s. That's good. It's like, C plus to B plus. I'd say C plus to B plus. Really, 740 is pretty great. 740, I would be extremely happy with the 740. So in this case, you're definitely going to be able to apply to, if you had a 740, you'd be applying to, U of M and, these really, really selective schools that, only take the cream of the crop, Notre Dame. You'd have less and less opportunity as the lower your score goes. That tip top above 740, that's like Harvard, Yale, you're really up there. I mean, it's Yale, Harvard. Don't expect just because you pay your bills on time, you're going to have an 850. You're going to have an, just because you have an A in all of your classes and you're really smart and you're even the valedictorian, doesn't mean you're necessarily going to go to Harvard or get to go to Harvard, right? So if you have between 720, 740, you're doing great. It's an A plus. It's extremely difficult to get this, perfect, exceptional score. It's possible, but we're talking decades, of building up history. So when you're young, you're just shooting for above 700. You want to stay above 700. If you're above 740, awesome. So that's how you can think about it. Well, why does it matter? You keep telling me how important it is. Again, you can kind of think about it for college. How important is it to you what college you go to? How important is it to you that you go to any specific college? It may not be important, but like we talked about with scholarships, if you don't try, if you don't make an effort, you're not going to get any scholarships. You're not going to get any deals off, and it's going to be extremely expensive and most expensive to go to school. So the more effort you put in, the less you end up paying for the school that you want to go to. So this number, this adult GPA, this credit score, it can influence renting an apartment. How so? Well, I apply to live in an apartment, right? You can't just walk in the door and say, I'm going to live here. They say, what's your name? Let me see your driver's license or security number. I want to run your credit. I want to see your past borrowing and repaying history. Because whether or not you're going to pay me rent, I'm going to take a pretty good guess on how you paid your bills in the past. Now, they're not going to set their rent. They're not going to say, oh, this person has good credit, I'm going to charge them more for an apartment. It's not about negotiating a price. It's literally more about, does this person appear trustworthy enough to pay their rent? So, yep, you're approved. Great. Now we can sit down and talk about prices, models, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom. But if you have a spotty history of paying your credit card, paying your car loan, even though those have nothing to do with, where you live, they are a reflection on how you treat your bills, a reflection on how you treat your responsibilities. So it could be much, much harder to rent an apartment. And again, with that lower credit score, much, much harder to get a mortgage. It's more difficult to buy a home, and it's hard to rent a home or an apartment. Your student loans, really any loans. I mean, the answer is any loans. Your credit card interest rate will be higher if you have a lower score. Your auto loan interest rate will be higher with a lower score. Your mortgage, your personal loan, student loans, any loan you take out, the less responsible you appear, the less creditworthy you appear, the more someone wants to make sure it's worth their while. They really want to lock in, I'm going to get my money. So you could be paying potentially literally thousands of dollars more just in interest. I mean, imagine paying 5% more interest on your car, on your, student loan, on 3 different credit cards you have. That's a lot of money between the same, another person who's paying out the same amount as you every month. Job applications. Now, when we say job applications, the job application is not going to ask you for your credit score. It's not going to say, please, do you have good credit or bad credit? What's your credit score? But you fill out a resume, you fill out an application, you send it off to the position you're looking for, right? It's perfect. You read through it. It sounds exactly like what you're looking for. The hours sound great. It sounds like it's a perfect environment for what you're looking for. You're just so excited about it. You can't wait to get a call back. You get that call back. Hey, hi, Colleen Godfrey. Thank you so much for applying. We'd love to do some further research on you. I'm going to send you this online survey that asks questions about, do you feel like a team player? Do you feel like a leader? Things like that. And do we have your permission to run your credit, to do a credit check? Now, of course, I'm going to say yes. Oh, yes, absolutely, sure. Now, if I say no, well, that's kind of the first red flag in itself. If you apply to U of M and you're like, but I'm not going to show you any of my transcripts, the first reaction is like, well, then you're not going to be going to U of M, I'm assuming. So they are, okay, you hang up. You don't have an interview yet. You don't have the job yet, right? They review, your test answers, and they review all of the applicants' credit history, right? Let's say there's 100 people that apply for one job, one teaching job. There's no way I can interview 100 people. Well, even if I knock down these resumes and throw out some of the, maybe they don't have quite enough experience or quite enough education. All right, well, now I've got 50 applications. But that's still a lot. I mean, I can't sit down and do 50, interviews. That's how do I narrow this down even more? All the applicants have the experience I asked for. All the applicants have the education I asked for. So before I even have a chance to talk to them, how can I whittle it down, narrow it down? Well, let's say, and it depends, maybe 10 of those people have really poor credit, or maybe half of those people have okay credit and everyone else is amazing. What is the trend? What do the scores look like in comparison with the others? So, these are those 10. These 10 are, below 600. I'm going to knock those 10 off. And, maybe I'll call and have a phone interview with these 40. I'm using these numbers, but maybe, everyone seems to have a really good credit score. Everyone's great. So I'm only going to take these top, 20, these top 20 ones that are above, 760. So you don't necessarily know what the scenario is. It is not as easy as you must have a score of this to work here. But it may be a deciding factor whether they call you back and say, oh, Colleen, thank you. We got your credit report back. We'd love for you to come in for an interview, or we'd love to do a phone interview with you. Hopefully that goes well. Now you come for an in-person interview. You know, there's a lot of steps, and they don't want to bother to go through all of those steps with someone if it's not going to go anywhere or if they don't have to. So really keep that in mind. And I actually had a true or false activity I did with a class yesterday. And the statement was 15% of employers run a credit check on their new employees. And it was false. And you're like, oh, false? Really? They don't? It's 47%. 47% of employers will run some, you know, credit report on you, credit check, excuse me. Well, what does it say about you? What assumptions are they making? Well, you're not good with deadlines. You're made missed payments. You don't take deadlines or rules seriously. You're really high in debt. You have lots and lots of debt. You know, are you going to disappear? Are you going to steal from the company? You know, I don't know if I want you working at the register here. You know, I'm making assumptions about you. Would you ever steal? No, I would never steal. How could you think that? All I have here is this report that says, I don't know, you have way more debt than anyone else who applied. I'm just going to knock you off the list and move on. And that's devastating. That's really a devastating situation. You know, this person, I went to school, I got my degree, I did my, you know, internships. The job looks perfect for what I want to do. But I may have lost out on that opportunity because of I never returned my cable box, you know, years ago. So it's just remained as an unpaid debt to, you know, Xfinity for years. Or maybe I got a Best Buy card with my roommate in college years and years ago, but we've since, you know, moved away and we haven't lived together in years. But apparently he's been using the Best Buy card and not making payments on it. And I didn't even realize it was showing that I also wasn't making payments. You need to know, right? What is your report card saying about you? You would never send up your transcript and saying like, I hope it's something good. You would want to know everything that's on there, exactly what it says. You want to make sure you can tweak things as much as possible to say, make it appear the best, paint the best picture of you possible. You want your credit report to paint the best picture of you possible. You know what? We may not all have stellar job performance histories or stellar, you know, background or criminal histories. You know, a credit history is another way we can represent ourselves. It's another chance to show, but I can be positive with money, but I can be responsible with money. I know I may not have, you know, or I may have these things against me, but if you really work on your finances, you pay on time, you do what you're supposed to do, that can be a big influencer, right? So it's something to keep in mind, certainly. Okay, well, specifically, tell me more specifically where these numbers come from. You know, I want to be above 600. I really want to be above 700, but how do I do that? Well, the breakdown of a credit score is broken up like this. And really, I really want you to focus on these two. 35% of your score. So if I said this test is worth 35% of your entire grade, is payment history, is on-time payments, is a consistent and steady payment history, right? I don't want to see, you know, I missed a payment once every 6 months, or maybe I was late once every year. I want to see consistency, just like in school. You know, you can turn your work in on time late and still get credit for it, but it's going to kind of go down in history as a late assignment. You just turn in all your work on time, you got it. You're pretty well covered. So, oh, this is 30%. Good grief, this is supposed to be 30%. How interesting. And I'll prove it to you because here is the handout. This is 30%. I never noticed that before. So 35% is your payment history. 30% is capacity, meaning how much money you are capable of borrowing, right? If you're an 18-year-old and you have one credit card, with a $500 limit, you have the capacity to spend $500. You don't have a lot of financial power. Let's say you had 3 credit cards and they each had a $5,000 limit, right? So now you would be capable, you potentially could go charge a debt of $15,000. That's a different situation, right? You know, I have the potential to be $15,000 in debt, but I have the self-control. I'm not $30,000. How do I keep saying it? I'm not $15,000 in debt. Being $500, you know, free of debt is great, but it doesn't look as amazing as being $15,000 of debt. Also, you know, the more debt you create, you add, you know, another car loan, you add a personal loan, you add another credit card. You know, the more loans you have, you know, the more debt you create. You know, it may have an effect, may look bad. So these really are the two to focus on. When you're starting out, those first couple years, just make your payments on time and don't put too much on the card. Like, that's what you got to worry about. Just don't go crazy trying to spend and get as much credit and put as many things in your name. Nope. Consistency is key. As you gain experience, you want to, you know, build a length of credit history. You know, the credit card that you choose and seek out and sign up for at 18, there's really no reason why you shouldn't still have that credit card 10 years later, 15 years later, you know, 20 years later. It is a positive thing to see a long history, a long relationship, you know, with a company. Similarly to school, I always bring it back to school. If a college were looking at, you know, your application and you went to 4 different high schools in 4 years, well, technically, I mean, you went to school for 4 years. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, this is your GPA, but why? There's something suspicious. You know, why? It doesn't look quite as good to me as someone who went to the same school for 4 years, right? It's that kind of illusion of trust or illusion of stability because they have that long history. New credit, again, that is once you have more invested and you have many more items, more credit cards, loans, auto loans, mortgages. What was your recent credit? What did you most recently get? So if you're asking a new person for money, they're just saying, who else have you asked recently? Did you ask anyone else recently, right? If someone came to you and said, oh, Colleen, can I please borrow $50? And I said, well, I overheard you ask that person for $50. So now that I've heard that, I'm not going to give it to you because something doesn't seem right, you know? And 10% is a mix. There is a mix of credit in the sense of installment loans. I'll come back to that. Installment loans, meaning there's a set amount. I borrowed $30,000. I'm paying off $30,000. This is my last payment. Now I owe zero, excuse me. So now the loan is not there anymore. There are revolving loans. A credit card is a revolving loan because essentially you never really pay it off. Just because you bring the balance down to zero, you know, you can still go buy something right now. You know, it's the possibility of spending more money. Do you have an auto loan that you can pay and a credit card and a mortgage and a student loan? Do you have examples where you have responsibly paid different examples of loans? And again, when we're starting off, let's just worry about credit cards. You'll have a student loan on there. This is good to know. You will have, if you have a student loan, it will show up on your credit report before the payments are due. You know, you might be a sophomore or a junior in college. You haven't started to pay it back yet. It will show up as a debt that you have, but you're not behind. You know, you're not in default, you're not behind. It'll show in a few years, you know, at some point in the future, this person will have to pay this debt. So keep it in mind, you know, Colleen's not behind on anything, but she's going to have to pay $30,000, you know, in 2 years. Going back to the length of time, what is the right amount of time you should have? There isn't so much a threshold of at least 5 years or at least 10 years. What you want to avoid is kind of credit card chasing, where there's a promotional rate, 0% for a year, and I transfer everything to that credit card. And when the year goes by, I close it. And then I sign up for this card that has 0% for a year. And then I sign up for this card that has Delta Rewards miles. And then I decided I don't like those anymore. So I closed that card and I got another card and there's nothing technically wrong. You're allowed to sign up for as many credit cards or apply for as many credit cards as you want. But opening and closing, that's what stands out more. Why have you had a card no longer than 2 years? Or, you know, why have you closed all of your previous cards? You know, what about your history? You know, it just seems odd. You have no long-standing history. I would say try to keep it as long as possible. Meaning, when you look up your credit report, you know, when at some point you have it in front of you and it shows, you know, these are your payments you've made for your auto loan. These are the payments you've made for your student loan. These are the credit card payments you've made. It, you know, shows that information. It'll show even the retail cards, you know, your Old Navy card, you owe this much, or your Kohl's card, you owe this much. You know, all of that will be on there. Let's say I haven't used my Kohl's card in 2 years. I haven't been there. There's not one by my house. You know, there's no reason. I'll just go ahead and close it. Well, wait, hold on. Just because you don't go to Kohl's and you don't use it doesn't mean you need to close it. Why don't you just leave that Kohl's card alone, right? You don't have to go to Kohl's. You don't have to shop. I'm not saying do anything with it. But as you're just not accumulating debt, you're extending, you know, that length of time. So a lot of store credit cards that you start when you're young, or you sign up for, you know, a bunch of different store cards when you're young, be careful because they have extremely high interest rates, but don't be eager to close all those store cards as soon as you feel like not shopping there anymore. You know, you may be able to establish a long history with, you know, some stores that you've had in the past. I wouldn't close a credit card unless I had a reason to. What is the reason? Well, I never should have signed up. The interest rate is too high. The late payment is too high. Okay, those sound like perfectly good reasons. I think you should cancel that card and find one that works better for you. I'm going to cancel this card because it's really ugly and all my friends have cooler looking cards and I'm sick of it. It's boring. No, that is not a reason to close it. That is not a good reason at all. Why do charge-offs affect your credit with credit cards that are not used? Well, a charge-off, so things that can be shown on your credit report are positive things like on-time payments or payments in full. Negative things that can show up are, you know, missed payments, late payments, maybe repossessed items, foreclosed items, items that have, you know, gone through collections. Maybe it's been so long since you paid your credit card that they sent it to a collections company, a debt company. And at some point, you may reach an agreement with that collections company, or you may reach an agreement with your credit card company. All right, I'm going to close the account and I'm going to pay less than what the total is. Excuse me. And you're going to release me from this agreement, but it's a charge-off. So I have this kind of blemish. I have this, you know, big red flag on my report that says they didn't actually pay this credit card. It might look like they paid this credit card off, but they didn't really pay it off. We allowed them to, you know, get a good deal because they couldn't afford it. It is a long way to phrase it. But a charge-off is a last resort for not being able to pay a credit card bill or make a credit card payment. So it looks negative. If you are, I think you're asking, does it affect other credit cards? So if I'm default on my Kohl's card, let's just go back. Well, let's say I was very responsible with my Kohl's card. So I defaulted on my Old Navy card. I defaulted on the Old Navy card. I haven't paid it in years. I've carried a balance for, you know, years, and I haven't paid it. It really shouldn't affect my Kohl's card. No, if I'm responsible and I'm perfectly normal with my Kohl's card, it'll still look great. It'll just also include this, ooh, this is a bad situation that you don't want to get involved in for, you know, because of this example here. Like school, you may be amazing in history, you may be terrible in English. You know, it's you may be better at some things than others. And this is why now when you're young, when you're 18, 19, 20, you need to practice, experience, get used to this, because you really don't understand how much, you know, impact it can have on your life and how expensive it can make things for you. You know, how many thousands of dollars you can save. Think about a home. A home is anywhere from, you know, it could be $100,000 home to, you know, a $500,000 home. Think of what's 1% interest of $500,000, right? Or 1% of even $100,000, you know, and you have that compound interest over 30 years. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So knowing what your credit score is, keeping track of your credit score is important so you can keep control of your life, right? You don't want to apply for a job and be shocked that they don't give you a call back because of a bad credit score, or apply for a credit card and be shocked that you're not approved. You know, you should have a pretty good idea of really what your credit number or credit score is. How do utilities and cable bill payments affect your credit? Another great question. There are 3 credit bureaus, and each bureau does not collect exactly the same things. I had an issue one time where a car loan was not reporting to 2 of the 3 bureaus and only reporting to 1, which was okay, but the whole problem was that it was incorrect information. So you may have utility companies that report to 1 bureau, and that's why it may be slightly different. Some utility companies do report credit. For the most part, no, you'll not see your water bill, your, you know, electricity, gas bill on there. You don't get credit for it. However, if it is a unpaid bill, if you haven't paid your water bill in months, or you haven't paid your DTE bill or consumer's energy bill in months, and that bill gets sent to collection, now that is an official trackable debt. You know, then it shows up as, hey, you didn't see it before, but this person has a $200 DTE bill that they haven't paid in months, or, you know, a consumer's energy bill. So once it becomes a debt, even if it's a doctor's bill, you know, you go to the doctor's office and they send you a bill for $300, which is, you know, what's left of your portion that you need to pay for whatever, you know, you went to the doctor's office for. If you just don't pay that, or if you maybe pay $100 of it and don't pay the rest, that will be reported to collections. And then next time you check your credit report, it'll show up that there is an unpaid medical debt. If you're paying on time, if you get the bill for the doctor's office and you send them the money and they receive the money, it's never going to show up on your report, because it's not borrowing and repaying. You're just paying for a service that you received. Your credit shows unpaid debts in those other situations. So Xfinity, a lot of people will rack up cable and not pay their cable bill. So those things will show up as a negative, but no, unfortunately, they do not always show up or even consistently show up as a positive. It's not going down. There we go. So how do you get your credit report, or how do you get the information? You are able to get one free credit report a year. That's one from Equifax, one from Experian, and one from TransUnion. So in theory, you could get all three of them in January and see how similar the numbers are and see how they differ, the tiny differences that they have between each other. But more sensibly, we suggest that you spread it out. You know, January, you get, let's say, Equifax. You know, May, now you pull your Experian one. You know, now it's October, now we're going to pull TransUnion. You know, so you get your 3 free checks, you know, you get its worth. You know, if you do them all in January, you know, well, now you don't know for the rest of the year. You say, well, why? Why do I need to bother? I pay my bills on time. I don't have a lot of debt. I know I have a good credit score. Why do I need to bother to check my account? I'm the valedictorian. I know I have straight A's. I'm not going to bother to look at my transcript before I send it off to the school. Okay, you know, okay. But maybe you should peek at it. You know, it's like someone who puts their credit card down for the bill before they even open it up and, you know, look and see what it is, look and see that everything's right. Same idea. Before you apply for that job, before you apply for that credit card, before you apply to move into that apartment, you know, you want to make sure that the information on your credit report is A, correct, and, you know, B, reflecting you in the right way, in the best way. You know, if it's not as great as you thought it was, maybe you need to work on your bills for a couple months, start paying things down. You know, pay off one bill completely, you know, that Old Navy bill that you have. And then in 2 months later, now apply for that, you know, apartment. You know, you need to monitor it because it may not be is you know, the way you see it. You may not remember, oh my gosh, I do have a lot of store cards. I forgot that I have Old Navy and Kohl's and Macy's and Sears and, you know, Target. You could go on and have 15 different store cards. So all of that is, you know, included in the mix. Again, repayment history is the biggest factor. So the most common question is, what can I do to improve my credit? What's the biggest thing I can do to improve my credit? And the easiest answer is pay your bills on time. Make absolute sure that you're always paying your bills on time. All right. Now, I believe, no, it's okay. Okay, so when you get your credit report from, and I believe I didn't mention it was annualcreditreport.com. So there, annualcreditreport.com, specifically, annualcreditreport.com only, not free credit report, annualcreditreport.com. Oh. Well, it's the chat box that we're talking about. So you go to annualcreditreport.com. Well, it will give you the report. It will not give you the score. You'll have pretty much an idea. Like if you get your report card and it doesn't show your GPA, you can kind of guess. You can say, oh, this is this must be pretty high. You're like, oh, this might not be very great. You can purchase your score. You can take that credit report to your bank or especially to your credit union and say, can you help me interpret this? Can you tell me what you think I can improve on my credit, where you think I need work? I'm not exactly sure what all of this means. You can sign up for creditkarma.com. It's free. It's not an exact science. It's not going to be for sure what your credit score is. but it tracks things that you give it access to, and it'll give you a pretty good idea, and it'll alert you if it notices something unusual. So there's definitely things you can do to help monitor yourself. All right, so before I end today, I said I had one more video, which is actually boosting your credit score. Oh, come on. So it continues on the credit squirrel. It would have been in the first one. So this is how to boost your score, how to maintain a high score, now that we've established kind of what it is and why it's important.
Oh, good.
Yes?
Credit squirrel, hey, I need some help building my credit score.
Shh. Yes, of course. Come in.
Okay.
Right. Here are 7 ways to build and maintain good credit scores. Number 1. Pay your bills on time. Don't hide them and don't pretend they don't exist. Pay your statement balance in full each month.
That's simple enough.
Number 2. Part of your credit score is based on the length of your credit history. So if you're just starting out, open one credit card and use it for small, regular, manageable payments, like a cell phone bill or gas.
Okay, something I know I can pay off every month.
Indeed. 3. Keep your credit utilization low. This means using only a small portion of your available credit.
I don't think I understand.
Example, if you have $1,000 of credit available and you're using almost all of it each month, it makes you look as though you rely heavily on that credit line. Keeping your utilization down to about 10% keeps your credit score in tip-top shape.
10% utilization. Got it.
4. Don't open a large amount of credit cards in a short time. Lots of inquiries on your credit report within a short time frame makes your score drop. 5. To give your score an extra boost, have a variety of credit. A mix of credit cards, retail cards, utility bills and installment loans keeps your score balanced.
Nice.
6. Try not to carry a balance. Pay off your statement balance every month.
What if I can't afford to do that?
If you can't afford to pay something off in a month, you probably shouldn't be putting it on a credit card in the first place. A credit card shouldn't be treated like extra income. Budget wisely. Making only the minimum payments each month can get you in trouble very quickly with all the interest you have to pay.
Yikes.
And finally, number 7, monitor your credit. There are free sites that you can use to get a good estimate of your credit score, as well as paid services to access the exact scores.
That's really great. Thank you so much, Credit Squirrel. Once again, you've been incredibly helpful. Oh, I was just getting advice from the Credit Squirrel. He lives in this tree, and, you know what? Never mind. Everybody can go away now.
All right. So, were there any other questions? Did you have, those were some great questions, and really I could go on and on for hours about credit. And it looks like I am speaking a mile a minute doing that right now. Are there any other questions I can answer?
Colleen, there was a question in the chat. Someone asked, when you were talking about bringing your credit card balances to 0 and just leaving them there and not utilizing the card, they asked, well, if you don't use the card, won't the company close the card because it's not being used?
It might. They very well might. Sometimes, especially with stores, sometimes stores will go out of business, and then that'll be a forced close. Other times, when they refresh their card, they're like, we've got a whole new program. You may not be included in that, upgrade. There could be other situations, yes, where let's say you get, a LensCrafters card to get a pair of glasses, and then 10 years later you go to buy a new pair of glasses, and they say, oh no, we have no record, of you having a credit card. They very well may have force closed it for you or on you. It's not automatic. It's not a set amount of time. If you're worried about that, you can certainly ask, you know, do you have a limit? Is there an inactivity fee? How long before there's maybe an inactivity fee? Set it up so maybe one thing a year, you know, your, I don't know, let's say your gym membership that you pay annually, you know, once goes on the card once. More bank cards, credit union cards, those are much less likely to be closed on you. You know, if I have a checking account with MSGCU, I have a credit card with MSGCU, and I really don't use my credit card very much, they know I'm still active in my checking account. I'm still an active member, so I'm sure they'll encourage me to spend more money, but it doesn't look negative. In fact, it just shows consistency of self-control.
Wow, okay. Any other questions, you guys? I got a question, Colleen. Is it better for a student to pay for college on a credit card versus taking out a loan?
I would not put it on a credit card. Between those two options, I would not. Now, and again, this is always, you know, case by case, take it with a grain of salt. But if you're talking about specifically for school, you're definitely going to use this money for school, and you apply for a student loan, there's more flexibility there. First off, you have that, you know, 4-year or 2-year, you know, deferment while you're in school. If you put the semester on your credit card, you got to start making that payment next month, you know. Interest rates on your credit card, I can almost guarantee are going to be higher than student loan rates. I mean, I think the highest student loan rate I've seen is like 9%, whereas credit cards will be certainly higher than that. In the future, because, you know, you may have a student loan for 10, 20, 30 years. You don't know your situation. You may lose your job 10 years from now. You may be divorced 10 years from now. So when you have a student loan, you've been paying your student loan consistently, you call up proactively, I lost my job, you know, I'm not getting an income right now, I want to keep my status, is there some paperwork I can fill out? Okay, you're going to be on unemployment deferment, and you don't have to make a payment for a year. You know, you can work with a student loan more than you can with a credit card, which is just, this is how you pay it off, and that's it. It's compound interest that I believe would get much more expensive. I put one semester of summer school in college on a Target credit card back when I was, I think, a freshman in college or somehow, and it, I couldn't get rid of it. It was there forever. It never went away until it went away. So I would really avoid ever putting tuition on any sort of credit card, even if you had to get a small private loan. But the flexibility of student loans, of you know, Department of Education loans, whether they're consolidated with a student loan company, you can work with them.
Okay, good deal. Well, you guys, if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to bring this to a close. Colleen, thank you. Great presentation as always. And I agree with you. This is a subject that cannot be exhausted. You know, there is always something very valuable that you can take away from this. We didn't even talk about co-signing.
That's yeah, and I didn't talk about co-signing. I just remembered. I usually mention about, you know, well, what if you don't pay your parking ticket, or what if you? Yes, that shows up too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I absolutely love how you used it in an analogy related to your grades and your classes, and it made it so much more spot on, relatable, because you did it that way. Excellent job. Excellent job. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much, Colleen. I'll see you next week. And everybody have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Bye, you guys.